Shotgun to shotgun.
Harry
Doc
is
Martin.
shotgun.
All right, family, we're going to get started right now. So I hope you all are interested in this platform as we deal with RBG versus Black Lives Matter, um, cultural sabotage, if you will, in the 21st century. And, this is nothing new for us. One of the things that I'm going to point out with you and speaking with you this afternoon is the need for a central intelligence agency within the Pan Africanist community. Of all of the great works that our great Marcus Messiah Garvey, one key element that Amy, the second wife, gave him was that he has to have some sort of intelligence around him. And I found that out on various trips, going to Jamaica and researching the history of his wife. And that was something that she was key on. And not just her, but also a lot of the women who surrounded Garvey, at the helm of UNIA. And so we're going to get into a little bit of that. We're going to talk about the difference between what is RBG and what is Black Lives Matter, and hopefully help you see things a little bit clearer. I'm going to use a political yardstick to help guide us through all of this. Um, Outside of having central intelligence within Pan Africanism, um, one of the things that we also must have is the ability to, if you will, think of what will happen once we get free. I always keep that in the back of my mind, listening to Dr. John Henry Clark. We have to think about what we do when we get free. And our political ineptness um, can be detrimental to us. In fact, it is detrimental to us. And I'm going to prove that and show you how we are being slaughtered politically, not just here in the United States, but around the globe. It is the political um, mallet, if you will, that came heavy on Garvey. That's the reason why he was incarcerated, and that's the reason why he was deported. All of it was political, and that's one of the disciplines that Kwame Ture used to say, especially when he came here to New York to the United African Movement, and shout out to the United African Movement, but he would often say, our people must have a political education. And so that's one of the things that the United African Movement, we picked up. So every week on a Wednesday evening, you were offered a free lecture, not just history, but of politics and law. And that enterprise was maintained for over 25 years, close to 30 years. In fact, not just a political and educational platform we also had a summer retreat, sleepaway camp for Black children, not just children here, but children came from as far as South Africa, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, just to attend our summer retreats. Um, and it was powerful. On top of that, we built our own independent, Black led, Black financed political party. And out of that, I am the first person to run for city council in my district on an independent, Black led, Black financed political party. And so I'm proud to be a part of this history, this rich history. But today, family, we talking about 100 years in the whirlwind. And I want you to have a clear picture and an understanding of what it was like when Garvey arrived here in the United States, what was happening prior to his arrival. You had right outside of enslavement, within 2 years, you had Black senators. here in the United States. And those Black senators were able to put in protections, if you will, for land ownership and business ownership so that people coming out of enslavement will be able to have access to resources and build their own communities, in which they did. Some of you know who they are. You think about Rosewood, you think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, you think about Durham, North Carolina, and so on and so forth. And so that is how they were able to do so. And if you doubt what I'm saying, I would implore you to research one of the first Black senators to come out of emancipation was none other than Charles Caldwell. And Charles Caldwell came out of Mississippi. And Mississippi, as we know it, to be one of the most brutal slave states in the nation. And that's because of the work of Charles Caldwell. See, white folks never forget their history, and they never give up until you are destroyed. And that is why um, enslavement, Jim Crow, you look at even Reconstruction all the way through the 60s, 70s, and even today. That's why white aggression is so hard in Mississippi, because of one man, one Black man, Charles Caldwell. And so he was a powerhouse here in the United States before Garvey's arrival. Let me tell you how powerful he is, because I want our people to understand a clear picture of Marcus Messiah Garvey and how he was able to garner over 1 million members worldwide. Charles Caldwell, I believe his mother enslaved African, his father was a slave master, and you know he is the result. However, he had been doing, little odd jobs and work. He was a blacksmith where he resided in Mississippi. And this brother, if you will, was able to subdue the consciousness of white folks to the point where they elected him to the Senate under the Republican Party. Not only did they elect him to the Senate, but he was acquitted of murdering a white Klansman and by an all-white jury. That's how much power that this brother had in Mississippi. And so I would employ all of you to at least study some of his story. He was a no-nonsense type guy as it relates to African people. Now, I'm going to jump around here because I want you all to get a clear picture of what it was like when Garvey came here. You had our brother Martin Delany, Civil War veteran, who at the time had his own steamship line. Did y'all know that? Did you know Martin Delany had his own steamship before Garvey got here? Martin Delany, who even Garvey knew to be the father of Black nationalism, right? When in the Civil War, during the Civil War, when the Union was losing, it was Abraham Lincoln who sought out Martin Delany. And he sought him out because he needed Black bodies in the war to beat the Confederate. Not that he wanted to free us from enslavement or any other nonsense like that they teach you in school, but there was a brokerage done. Martin Delany was a powerful newspaper publisher, and one of the most important quotes of Martin Delany, or Frederick Douglass, he said that I am proud to be a man, but Martin Delany is proud to be an African man. And he said any enslaved African who was seeking freedom and came across his threshold, he will protect them with every inch of his life. And so you think about all of this going on as Garvey considers coming in to the United States. On top of that, you had people like Hubert Harris, who is a brilliant mastermind as far as um, Black nationalism is concerned. He was a wonderful speaker and orator. In fact, the first day Garvey got here, he went to see Hubert Harris, and in Harlem at that time. Now, you had, as I said previously, you had individual communities who were building up their wealth tremendously. I'm not talking a little bit of wealth, because one of the things that your sister Keisha loves to do is to visit county national archive buildings, because it is the the municipal archive building that holds the entire history of your county, your city, and your state. All of it is there. And so that's where I pulled my information from. Now, you had a protection mechanism here in the United States when Garvey arrived. You had even in the streets, right? You had people like Madam Stephanie Sinclair, who is one of my favorites. This sister was a part of the original 5 Points gang, the only Black woman to be a part of such. She was such a force, she held off, mobsters like Dutch Schultz and Lucky Luciano and many others. In fact, you can see a little bit of her life story in the movie Hoodlum with Lawrence Fishburne, and Cicely Tyson actually plays Madam Stephanie Sinclair. But she was not just a powerhouse in the streets, mind you. Now, this is during the Depression. So she was able to garner an empire through the numbers racket in Harlem, right? She had employed hundreds of Black people in Harlem to run the numbers racket. Not just that, she used to write editorials that she paid for herself out of her own pocket in the Amsterdam News, exposing the corruption of white supremacy, the corruption in white government here in the United States, in particular New York. She was a powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with. And so what she mandated with her employees is that along with her, they become financial contributors to the UNIA. Not just the UNIA, but Father Divine Feed the Hungry program as well. So all of these things were taking place in the United States and in New York. And like I said, there was a protection racket, an identification mechanism, if you will, that was surrounding Black people, right? You had churches changing their names to African Methodist Church or African Episcopal Church, and the African this or the African that at that time. You also had people like Booker T. Washington, who Marcus Garvey looked up to and admired for a myriad of reasons. And so when he came here, Harlem, in particular New York, was in an infancy of changing the mindset and the consciousness of Black people around the world. Excuse me. So when he came here, he went to see Hubert Harris. And he was very, shy, if you will, did not speak above a whisper from what is reported. But he went to see actually a white preacher and studied how he was able to hypnotize the congregation, if you will. And so Garvey adapted that, so much so till he even started sounding like said pastor. But he then changed it, and every time when you hear a speech, or if you've ever heard a speech of Marcus Garvey, and please, family, I would implore you to visit these municipal archives buildings, because they have audio, they have footage, they have papers, they have books, they have government doctrine, everything that you can pull through to get a better understanding of our history and our culture. And this is throughout the United States, but I'm going to use New York because I live here. And this is where Garvey came. Now, you also have to understand that during the movement here in New York, um, Ida B. Wells, she took out an ad here asking Black men and women to join a National Rifle Association. And that makes you think, where did the NRA get its name from? National Rifle Association. Now, if you remember the movie Hoodlum, when Queenie's assistant, or I forget the character of the brother's name, where he was shot down in the street, and you see, if you ever watch that movie again, you're going to see the camera pull away from the ground. And as it pulls away from the ground, I want you to look to your left and your right, and you will see flags that say NRA. You have to ask yourself, why would the NRA have flags waving in Harlem if that didn't already belong to us? And this is how people hijack culture and hijack your history and everything else. Because unfortunately, we haven't been trained politically, and we haven't been trained to connect dots the way other ethnic groups do. A brilliant attorney once told me, he said, Black people lack three things. We lack a philosophy, we lack military science, and we lack political education. And those are the three things that have been a detriment to us. So I'm going to move on. Now, Black Lives Matter. We're going to get into that, but stay with me on the UNIA. As it builds its membership around the globe, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, when I talk about people, I mean government leaders around the world were paying attention to Garvey, and they feared him, believe it or not. There were letters written to the president at that time to make sure that Garvey could never enter their countries. And these you can find to the continent or anywhere else if he tried to do so. And so now, going back to Amy Garvey, when she mentioned to her husband that he needed to have some sort of intelligence mechanism around him, he pretty much pushed that to the side. And he suffered the fate of that. And one of the things that I want all of you to understand, and I believe our brother Black Panther said it earlier in his presentation, and shout out to him, that we can't do everything, right? So I know my lane. I know my lane is history and politics, and I stay in it. I don't jump into education. I don't jump into, I don't know, cultural realms. I don't do that because that's not my lane. So as you had earlier, you had someone like Sister Ajua, Dr. Ajua come in, and she's telling you about African spirituality. I sit and I listen and I pay attention and I learn because that's not my lane. I'm not going to try to cross over into that. And unfortunately, Garvey tried to do everything. And in trying to do everything, you can't watch everybody, right? The first time the FBI had an agent that looked like you and me was because of Garvey to infiltrate that movement. And not just that agent, but other agents infiltrated his movement, not just here, but also in Jamaica, which hardly no one talks about, especially Garvey's political campaign, how he ran for office there, what happened, what went wrong. We have to look at these things and understand that even prior to his arrival, government leaders, if you will, were paying attention to this man, paying attention to him. Not just him, but people of the same like mindset, right? So they had to hire people, the FBI, hire people to look like you and me to go in and infiltrate this movement. And without a political blueprint to follow, without an intelligence agency surrounding this movement of over 1 million members, they were able to come in and destroy it. And we haven't learned that lesson till this day. That's why an apparatus like a Black Lives Matter can come in and hijack the movement and your culture. See, everything is a testing ground. You know, I learned that from Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Everything is a testing ground, and every move you make in life, they're going to test you. So right now, fast forward right now, you just had a bunch of uprisings in every major city in the United States and around the world, to be exact. And Black Lives Matter able to co-opt, take it over. Who was the pushback? Where is our intelligence? There was no guidance as to who these people are and where the hell they came from. We just follow suit because the slogans sound good. And they know that. Psychologically, we want to win. We want to win. So they know that. They will play on our emotions. And that's why, as my big sister Soldier used to say, we have to get out of our addiction to slogans. Because slogans will, if you will, hypnotize you into things that you can't do or you shouldn't do, right? Like McDonald's, there's a slogan for that. There's a slogan for Nike shoes. There's a slogan for Netflix. There's a slogan for everything. And sometimes you don't even have to see the commercials. All you have to do is hear the slogan and you know what product that belongs to. It's the same with the movement. It's no difference. That's why intelligence is key. Everybody must be vetted. And those we deem unfavorable must be neutralized. In order to have an intelligence agency, now we have to see ourselves as a nation. I hope everybody sees that here. If we are a nation, think of other nations. Every nation on the planet has an intelligence mechanism. All of them do. Why? Because you have to protect yourselves as a government. And if we are a nation, we have to do the same. And if we don't do it, we're going to keep being infiltrated on everything that we do. Everything. Because they're already a step ahead of you. Right? So we have to think and move a little bit different than we are used to. Right? So for example, let's say 100 years in the whirlwind becomes a movement. Right? We are now, from that movement, have compartments, right? One is an organization, one could be a political party, one could be a business enterprise or business commission or commerce, right? So how will we stop people from tearing us down? We have no guard. We have no guard. So let's say this woman from Black Lives Matter, what's her name? Alicia Garza or whatever her name is, one of the founders. Let's say she says, well, you know what? I'm going to funnel some money into 100 years in the whirlwind. Who's checking that? Who's checking those dollars that came in? Why don't we know where she lives, her mother lives, her father lives, where she go to work, how many years she did in school, who she sleep with, what color panties she got on, what shoes she wear? We must know it all. We must know it all. It is important that we do so. We have to have intelligence and we have to have a political education. Now, how do I know that this works? I live in New York, in particular, Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York has one of the largest communities of the Hasidics in the United States. The Hasidic community, Hasidic Jewish community here in New York, not only have their own community, they have their own police force, they have their own court systems. You can look it up, rabbinical courts of New York City, to deal with their own issues because they deemed themselves a special class. And they said that the New York State judiciary cannot govern them. They have their own court system. So when we're off today, I want you to look New York City rabbinical courts. So you don't think I'm lying. Back during the Crown Heights riots, your sister Keisha was a part of that. One of the best days ever. Nothing like punching crackers in the face. I'm telling you, and beating the hell out of crackers all day long. It was great. But during the Crown Heights riots, the Hasidics put mandates on then Mayor Dinkins, and black Mayor Dinkins, and he would not comply. Now you can Google this too. As a matter of fact, one of the best articles to read about this comes out of the New York Times archives. Those Hasidics went into Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's mansion in New York City, and tore it apart. They literally pulled the floorboards up. That's how much they tore it apart. And then they took out every file out of that building. Now let me and you try that without a protection mechanism. Let us try that. This is how the Panthers were infiltrated. This is how all of our movements get infiltrated, by saboteurs and anything else, right? So we have to have our own court system because we are a special class here in the United States. One of the things that I wish a Black law firm would take on is to file a suit against the US government for us on behalf of being a special class that would then allow us the ability to have our own court systems, right? A brilliant attorney at War Automatics used to say, Black and white folks speak different language. White folks speak legalese, and Black folks talking Ebonics. Now, this is a man who won every case in the courtroom, right? So I would take his leadership in that, because I don't know that. I will take his leadership in that. When they speak in layman, when they speak legalese, we think in layman. And that's how another reason why we get tripped up out here, right? We have to change that. And so, family, I want you to understand everything that Garvey has tried to put forth to bring into fruition. It is our responsibility to make sure it is a success, right? It is our generation. We are the middle children. It is us. Otherwise, everything that he has done, everything that has been done prior will be an ultimate failure, because right now we are dealing with apparatuses that are hijacking Black culture left, right, and center. Not just Black Lives Matter. You have LGBTQ. You have Asians. I mean, look at Kamala Harris. Today she Indian, tomorrow she Black. So it flip-flops. But who is there to check them? They have no fear of us. And that is the problem. A lot of folks won't go against the Hasidic Jews here in the United States because they know what repercussions they can have, i.e. Nick Cannon, right? Who is checking people who are stealing Black culture, Black movement, Black power, Black politics, Black finance, Black wealth? Who is checking these people? If you don't do that, they're going to keep playing you. And that's where Black Lives Matter come in. Black Lives Matter, family, is an operation for the LGBTQ. Has nothing to do with African people and African families. Nothing. Start from the beginning. Remember when I came in and I told you, in order to have a success in a movement, it must be Black-led and Black finance. Black Lives Matter is not. It's not Black-led and it ain't Black finance. its founder, well, one of its founder, Alicia Garza, I believe that is her name, clearly stated what their movement was about. But because of the slogan and the hurt and our need to win, we fell for it. They know that. It's melodic. They know that. We are rhythmic people. They know it. We do not. So I'm going to show you something in comparison so that you can see the difference between what a Black power movement is and what Black Lives Matter is. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen here. Just give me a second. Let me try to open this, because I don't want, people to say, I'm doing this and nah, that ain't how I work, partner. Okay, can y'all see that screen there? The Black Lives Matter screen? If somebody put yes in the comments or something. Okay. All right. Somebody say yeah. Okay, so now let's click on about. Okay. What we believe. 4 years ago, what is known as the Black Lives Matter Global Network, it ain't say nothing about Black movement, began to organize. It started out as a chapter-based, member-led organizations whose mission was to build local power and to intervene when violence was inflicted on Black communities by state and vigilantes. Before I move on, I want you to understand this sentence right here. Black communities by the state and vigilantes. Every murder that is happening by police officers or members of government is a state-sanctioned murder. Understand the difference. That means the state has sanctioned those police officers or those government employees or watchdogs to murder you. Okay? That too can be a class action lawsuit. Let's move on. In the years since we've committed to struggling together and imagining and creating a world free of anti-Blackness, where every Black person has the social, economic, and political power to thrive. Black Lives Matter began as a call to action in response to state-sanctioned violence and anti-Black racism. Our intention from the very beginning was to connect Black people from all over the world who have shared a desire for justice to act together in their communities. The impetus for the commitment was and still is the rampant and deliberate violence inflicted by the state. Now, in this paragraph, it says their intention from the beginning was to connect Black people from all over the world who have a shared desire for justice to act together in their communities. We all know that all of us who look like us ain't our friends. That already tells you they ain't for Black families or the Black community. There is no vetting process. They ain't even vetting. They just let everybody in. In fact, when we get off today, I want you to Google Black Lives Matter and the Boogaloo Boys. While everybody was out there protesting whatever it is they was doing a couple of months ago, if you want to call it a protest, the Boogaloo Boys was in the midst. This is a white nationalist group that was in the crowd, in the group, with everybody else, watching us, learning our weaknesses, learning our moves, learning our slogans, learning how we dress, learning our health and eating habits. This is what the Boogaloo Boys was doing. Because there's no vetting processes, they went right along with the crowd. Let's move on. Enraged by the death of Trayvon Martin and the subsequent acquittal of his killer, George Zimmerman, and inspired by the 31-day takeover of the Florida State Capitol by Power U and the Dream Defenders, we took to the streets. A year later, we set out together on a Black Lives Matter freedom ride to Ferguson in search of justice for Mike Brown and all those who have been torn apart by state-sanctioned violence. This is a crime. And anti-Black racism. Forever change, we returned home and began building the infrastructure for Black Lives Matter Global Network, which even in its infancy has become a political home for many. Now, when they went to Ferguson, nobody invited their behinds to go down there. They went down there to co-opt that movement. And if you don't believe me, you can go back to Google or YouTube and look at the video footage, the interview with our brother, Darren D. Seals. And he brilliantly explains how they came in to co-opt the movement. And yet, mainstream media turned a blind eye to this. And that's because we have no protection mechanism. We have no intelligence to make them do it. Mainstream media will do what any ethnic group tells them to do. That's why you see, even though they say Hispanics are a larger group now in the United States, we still lead the front page news every week when it comes to horrific crimes. It's still us, it ain't the Hispanics. You have to have a protection racket to do so. Everybody in the congressional body, or 437 members, have been compromised. All of them. We'll get into that as well. Okay, now move on. Ferguson helped to catalyze the movement to which we have all helped to give life. Organizers who call this network home have ousted anti-Black politicians, won critical legislation to benefit Black lives and to change the terms of the debate on Blackness and around the world. Through movement and relationship building, we have also helped catalyze our movements and shifted culture with an eye toward the dangerous impact of anti-Blackness. Now, these people something else, boy. I tell you, they tell you right here in the writings, but because we don't have a political, legal understanding of what is written here, it'll go fly over most people's heads. That's why, when you try to tell people, Black Lives Matter, they ain't representing us, they're the first to shoot you down. They're the first. And if you tell them to go to the website and read it, see here, that's what they saying. But you're looking at it in the layman. I am not. Now, let's move on. Okay, Black Lives Matter Global Network is as powerful as it is because of our membership, our partners, our supporters, our staff, and you. Who is the membership? Is there a membership role? Is there a corporate office? Who are these partners? Did we okay these partners? Who are they? Who are our supporters? Who are they? What staff? What you talking about? And nobody is in here to check this type of stuff. It's illegal and it's wrong. And this is misappropriation of culture. And that is another class action lawsuit we can have. Can't wait till my brother Vernon get in here and go in. But this is another class. This is misappropriation of our culture. We don't know who these partners are. Well, one of them we know to be George Soros. We know the supporters are LGBTQ. That's not Pan-Africanism, right? This is an umbrella, if you will, of the Democratic Party, of the Democratic apparatus, if you will. Everything about this movement, everything about this website, every video that they post has a Democratic tongue to it. And that bothers me. That bothers me. Now, we're going to scroll down a little bit more, right? We're going to start right here. We see ourselves as part of a global Black family. Let me scroll this up. Maybe people can see better. Okay. We see ourselves as part of a global Black family, and we are aware of the different ways we are impacted or privileged as Black people who exist in different parts of the world. We ain't privileged nowhere. What's she talking about? Is it homosexual, gay men and women who have a little bit of privilege as far as it relates to LGBTQ groups, because the damn sure ain't over here. We are guided by the fact that all Black lives matter, regardless of actual or perceived sexual identity, gender expression, economic status, ability, disability, religious beliefs or disbeliefs, immigration status, or location. All of that whole paragraph is anti-Black. We make space for transgender brothers and sisters to participate and lead. How is that pro-Black? How is that how is that level with Garvey UNIA principles? Explain to me that. Nobody is around to check these people. Nobody is. Nobody. Like, I'm sorry, and I have to say this, and I might get into a little bit of trouble here. I don't care. I stay in trouble any damn way. But they need their heads rocked. A central intelligence agency will know how to neutralize such an agenda as this. The same way the FBI was able to neutralize UNIA. We have to have someone or some entity neutralize when a movement or organization, a politician or whoever that goes against the principles of what it means to be Black, what it means to be African, and who we are as a people. When someone goes against that, they must be chin checked immediately. And we are not doing that. We have so much fear. So much fear. And I don't care how many times we read, I don't care how many businesses we start, and I often use the Black Wall Streets as a great prime example of this. Financial wealth up the wazoo. They had so much money, family, at that time that countries like France wanted to do business with Black Wall Street, in particular Tulsa. Go in the municipal archives, they have that information in. So you have nobody to protect us. Think back to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Think back to Rosewood and Durham and even here in Brooklyn, New York, had a Black Wall Street. All of it taken away. Why? Why? We believe that these people are going to leave us alone if we do ourselves, if we be ourselves. Just do us. Don't worry about them. That is a foolish, foolish way of thinking. Africa thinks that way. The continent does. That's how the Arabs came in. That's how the Europeans came in. And now the Asians are in there doing it. They are not going to leave us alone. This must be a physical confrontation. I don't care what you think. I know what I know because I understand military science. As a matter of fact, just this past Saturday evening, I was in the middle of a debate with a professed white nationalist, and he himself said he respect Garvey, he respect Elijah Muhammad and what he was trying to do. He said that America owes Black people reparations. He said, but if we can't figure this out reasonably, and I know we won't, it's going to be physical. And he said, and I quote, you people better get ready. Y'all better get ready. Like I said, they are moving amongst us and we don't even know. You had hundreds of protesters up and down New York streets shouting Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And you had the Proud Boys mixed in the group. You had the Boogaloo Boys mixed in the group. All of them watching you. There was a brother on, I think it was Instagram. His name escapes me, but he had recorded a Black SUV sitting near the Capitol with 3 white men in it. One of the white men got out and he walked towards where the protesters was. When he came back, the brother who was recording asked him, who was he with? The white man said, media. The brother said, may I see your credentials? The white man ignored him. walked to his vehicle where the other two were waiting, got in the vehicle, and he asked them again. He said, "Are you media?" The white man said, "Yes." He said, "Can I see some credentials of where you're from? What media outlet you're from?" Those white men smiled at him, rolled up their window, and drove off. They are amongst us. You talk about gentrification. It's not just so they can take over the community. It's so they can watch you and test you. That's why you have all of these, what do you call these damn women? These Karens out here. These people calling police on black people. These are testing grounds. How do I know this? Go back to Dylan Roof, the murderer of our people in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the AME church in Charleston. Dylan Roof said in his jailhouse interrogation, he was able to go into that church and sit for more than an hour without no one even asking him a question. He said, and I quote, "I am not a lone wolf, that there are hundreds of thousands, even into the millions of us, and we are all going to keep testing you. We feel comfortable around our damn enemies, and we should not." One of the things Garvey did say, you should not be comfortable around your damn oppressor. You let them move into the neighborhoods, y'all don't say nothing. If there was one black family who moved into an affluent white neighborhood, they gonna get checked. That's why you got all these Karens. I know because it happened to a family member of mine in DC, in a wealthy suburb of DC. It was all over the news. The Karen called police on an 8-year-old cousin for riding his truck around. But these are testing mechanisms before the full range of assault goes into play. And we are allowing it to happen. We don't believe that. Why do you think you're having so much aggression with white folks calling police? This is testing. And not one of those persons, not one of their persons have been taken off the planet. You got this crew now that call themselves, what do you call them? The NFAC. Stop the BS. Because until you deal with Trayvon, George Zimmerman, Dylan Roof, Darren Wilson, the murder of Ricky Boy, the two officers who murdered Corin Gaines in Baltimore, until you deal with these murderers, shut your damn mouth. You're a liar and a fraud. And you got our people out here looking crazy because, believe it or not, family, we want to do something. People want to get involved and do something and protect ourselves. And because we don't have a central intelligence agency in Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism in the Black community, period, because we do not, these people continue to play us. That's how Black Lives Matter was able to take over the movement. Nobody is checking them. Alicia, whatever her name, Garza, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Sister should have ascended on her ASAP. She should be afraid to walk out of her door right now. But she's on every media platform with her white lover that looks like, I don't know, what's the father name from that show with Roseanne? That's the way the chick looked to me. But anyway, nobody is checking these people. How the hell is it that we allow this to happen? You got politicians who come into your communities during election time and promise all kinds of trinkets, and nobody checks them. Nobody. Why the hell, after all of these state-sanctioned murders, after every Black movement has been co-opted in this country, we have not waged a physical assault on this entire nation yet? And I'll tell you why, because we are in fear of doing so. When our brothers from, our comrades rather, here in New York, who pleaded with the then governor, Black governor Patterson, for the release of John White, and we had to go into those courtrooms, we were well prepared. The Aryans were in there. The skinheads was in there. The Klans was in there. They literally separated the courtroom, us on one side and them on another. We was bout it. Y'all have to be bout it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can intellectualize this until you fall out. Not gonna work. Not gonna work. As Malcolm said, you can't talk to a lion in cat in mouse language. You got to talk to the lion the same way the lion is talking to you. Now, I'm not telling you all to go out there and start slaughtering white folks and Chinese folks and any other kind of folks. But when they come and try to co-opt who we are, they must be dealt with. A police officer during the Crown Heights riot that I mentioned here in New York, that I myself was a part of. One Hasidic was murdered. The brother, Limerick Nelson, was tried and acquitted of his stabbing of this Hasidic. You know, the federal government swooped in because those rabbinical courts then, they filed their class action. They wasn't playing. Brought Limerick Nelson back into court under federal charges and convicted that man. Even though the man who murdered those two children with his vehicle, drunk driver, in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, was not only able not be arrested and get away with it, he was allowed to flee to Israel. When you hear these politicians talking about a united front with Israel, what does that really mean? Is it just financial? Is it militarily? Is it political? It's all of the three. That's why, what's his name? The Prime Minister of Israel. Geez, it escapes me right now. Man, not Ariel Sharon. Netanyahu. That's why Netanyahu, don't even have to have an appointment to address the U.S. Congress. He could just walk in when he feel like it. It just happened a couple of years ago. And address and stage a filibuster on the congressional floor. Let me and you try that. Just for speaking his truth, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad was condemned by the Congress. And what do we do about it? Not a goddamn thing. Every congressional member that voted to condemn Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, there should have been a protest outside of their homes every day, a protest outside where their kids go to school, where their spouses go to work at, where they eat lunch at, this protest in front of those businesses. See, that's how you use protest effectively. I know because we did it in Crown Heights here. We did it in Howard Beach here. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to tell you something that isn't going to work. And out of that, people began to be co-opted, like your Al Sharpton. He's been an agent. Everybody knows that. Why would you take National Action Network word on anything? It's beyond me. So let me check the chat here, because I think we have some questions in here, but I'm going to pull this open. Give me 1 second. Let me stop sharing the screen. Stop share. Okay, let's see what's in the chat here, because I don't want to miss none of y'all. Get in trouble. Brother Kuji Chocolate, I don't want no beef. All right. Let's see. People was asking, okay, just saying hello. Okay, plant-based. Yeah, yep. You're right, sister. That plant-based. I'm about to get me something to eat later because I got to ride my bike for a couple of hours. Let me see. Absolutely, Adenike. Absolutely. So yes, this has to be a physical confrontation. How is it that we allow in the city of Baltimore, the police department, again, government-sanctioned murderers, go into a vestibule of an apartment building and murder Corinne Gaines and shoot her son, her toddler son at the same time? You had our sister Miriam Carey, who made a wrong turn, just a wrong turn. And federal police officers murdered her with her toddler daughter in the back seat. What was the repercussions of that? We did nothing but run our mouths. The Capitol should have been in lockdown. I hope that you all paid attention. And I'm going to give you a bit of information here. Whenever there's an earthquake, whenever there's a hurricane, whenever there's mudslides, whenever there's raging wildfires on the West Coast, whenever you have a pandemic, pay attention to how the nation responds. They clearly show you their weaknesses every single time. Every single time. They can't beat us. They just made you think that. Oh, they got all these powerful weapons and all of this surveillance and so on and so forth. So what? So what? That's why they still can't win in Afghanistan. So what? We're the only ones that are afraid. And we have to get out of that fear. We must, or we are going to die and our children are going to die. Because conditions are getting worse. As I read earlier, Black Lives Matter has clearly stated that they are representatives of Black women, Black trans women, LGBTQ, and they have global partnerships. None of this represents who we are, and it damn sure don't represent who Garvey was. Garvey was a straight Black man who married a straight Black woman, and they had children, and their children had children. We're not into that. I'm not transgender. None of us are transgender. We don't got that kind of life. So who are you protecting out here? And in fact, how the hell can Black Lives Matter employ an attorney like Sanford Rubenstein, who was accused of raping a Black woman, who was a part of Al Sharpton's National Action Network? When police arrived on the scene of this so-called rape scene, they found Viagra pill bottles with Al Sharpton's name on it. How come so-called Black media ain't talking about that? Nobody is outing, you see what I'm saying? All of these infiltrators and saboteurs. Nobody. You have Hawk Newcomb, who like to talk about he Black Lives Matter New York. And he taking over the streets and he doing that. How the hell is Hawk Newcomb running around with Sanford Rubenstein, who was accused of raping this Black woman? All of a sudden, this case just went away. Just went away. That's CIA stuff. Sharpton is an agent. That went away. Nobody, no, I don't hear Roland Martin. I don't hear, what's her other face? Joy Reid, Angela Robb. None of these cats talking about how is it that when police arrived on the scene, that Viagra bottle had Al Sharpton's name on it? What kind of brownies or cookies did Sanford Rubenstein give this young lady to sedate her so he can, as she said, attack her sexually? How was that allowed to happen? How is it that police officers can drag Sandra Bland into a police station and in a lockup and come out murdered, and everybody who did it is alive? How was that happen? There are no repercussions. We won't even shut down their businesses. I put out an edict a couple of years ago. Pick one. Just pick one. You don't gotta pick all businesses. Pick one. I don't care if it's Walmart, Target, JC. Well, they going out of business. Whoever. Just pick one. And that one, hell, if Black people stop shopping with Amazon, we'll be a force to be reckoned with. We'll be a force to be reckoned with. It's the same with the political apparatus. If we withhold our vote, and I don't mean not vote for those of you who feel that you must, vote for yourselves. Every election, every office in this city or state election, I always do a write-in for myself. Always. I could do a better job than all of y'all combined. So why would I give you my vote? How is it that Black people have the balance of power in the Democratic Party, the party which enslaved you in the first place, but the Democratic Party, how in the hell you have the balance of power in that party and you still begging? Because we like slogans, we like feel-good moments. It feels good to go in and process a vote. These people who out here talk about what our ancestors died for us to vote. No, they didn't. No ancestor died for voting. They were murdered. They were murdered and nobody paid the cost. Sister said, let me see. I think Sister Ray said, we must ask ourselves, who are our responsibility? We are. We do, we protect. Who do we protect? Ourselves. We must know and honor the fact that we are under each other's protection. We must demonstrate honor of ourselves so non-Blacks and internally white Black folks know that we have no answer to us if and when they violate. They have to know they must see us. True. Now, I am, me and my husband, the youngest folks that live on my block that actually own properties on this street. When something goes crazy on this block, guess who they come see? Right? You had the Hasidic community, Hasidic Jews, who were trying to buy up these people's property in this area. If you Google right now, the hottest place to live in New York City, in particular Brooklyn, is East New York. You have so many people trying to get people to sell their properties. And like I said, there are a lot of seniors. So one day I'm coming home and I'm walking up the street and one of my senior neighbors ran to me. She said, Keisha, this woman keep knocking on our door and ringing our bell, saying that she's looking for someone, but I know who she is because she worked for those people who used to come and knock on our door asking us if we wanted to sell. So I said, where's she at? So she told me, and you know, by the time I got to the middle of the block, I was able to see the lady, and I said, excuse me, what are you doing over here? She said, excuse me? I said, hey, no, excuse me. What the hell are you doing over here? So she said, well, I'm looking for one of my friends. I forget the woman's name she mentioned. I said, well, no white people live on this block. So the white woman says, well, how do you know I'm looking for somebody white? Because ain't nobody Black on this block rocking with your ass. Now, what you want? So then she says, well, she told me she lived over here. I said, I just told you. Now, if you ring one more doorbell or knock on one more door, I'm going to whoop your behind. That ain't what I said. You can imagine what I said. And if I catch you on this street again, I'm going to kill you. She said, are you threatening me? I said, no, ma'am. I don't make threats. This is a promise. I bet you ain't see that woman on this block no more. See, when they start coming in to gentrify, ain't nobody check these people like they would do you if you tried it. Y'all friendly with them. Just let them roam around free. We don't do that over here. Where we live at, we all look out for each other over here. You ain't gonna find that. You had one brother who bought a house, I think on the next block, the end of the block. And his woman is Caucasian. Now, we had block parties and things of that nature. You know, we had to check her. You ain't part of this right here. You gotta get off the block. So the brother got mad. I said, first of all, you shouldn't have brought that cave beast over here in the first place. But she gonna know what it is to come over here the way we know what it is to go over there with them. Now, you can either go behind your closed doors with her or get her so-and-so off this block. We ain't seen them outside since. See, this is the problem. We don't confront anything. I know everything about my neighbors. Like I said, they're all seniors. I know where the kids work, where the kids live, all of that. I knocked on the door and met every one of my neighbors in my district personally, not just the block, the entire district. And if I had some of my peoples from the Freedom Party, they'll tell you that. That's real and exact. So I personally introduced myself to everybody in this district, door by door. Me, just myself. Could you imagine if I had a damn crew behind me? This is what I'm saying. We got to get out of this fear. And we didn't want these business grants, these business loans, as my brother Black Panther was talking about earlier, for education or anything else we need. We have to take it. You have to take it. You have to show up at your city council representatives' offices. You have to show up to these town halls. When they are voting on bills and legislation, you have to show up. I show up all the damn time. So much so that they really, I kid you not, hold their head down when I come up in here. Because I'm not playing with you. I got to look out for me and mine. I don't give a damn about nobody else. So when Kamala Harris comes in here and she's talking about she half Jamaican, not the Garvey side you ain't. Not the Garvey side, heifer. I know you from that mulatto side, that Bustamante side, that Michael Manley side. Please don't let me embarrass you. I hope, because New York is such a, Brooklyn right now, New York is such a powerhouse right now in the state. I hope that she has a town hall meeting here. I'm paying whatever the cost is to get up in there, and I want to be front row and center. We got to do that, family. We have to have a protection mechanism against our movement. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should be able to capitalize off 100 years in the whirlwind. Why the hell does Walmart, JCPenney, Target, Sears, and I can't remember the rest of these big chains, how is it that they're able to capitalize off the holiday of Kwanzaa and we don't have a say-so in that? If you have a store and you want to sell kosher products, a rabbi has to come in and give his say-so so you can do so. If you have a restaurant and you selling kosher food, the rabbi has to give you approval. Anything involving Black people and Black culture, we should be able to give approval or not, or shut it down. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. That's why we keep losing out here. And I refuse to leave this world, because none of us got a damn magic pill. We all gonna walk up out of here. I refuse to leave this world and have to see my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, and great-great-grandfather. And I have to look at Malcolm and I have to look at Garvey and say, I did nothing to pick up the mantle where you left it at. Nothing. We owe Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad for what they did to him in the U.S. Congress. How the hell you go out here and vote blindly? And if I leave you with anything else, family, because this is a big political cycle coming up in November. There is a website, and I want you to write it down, opensecrets.org. opensecrets.org. That website, all you got to do is put in a candidate's name. I don't care if it's local, state level, or federal. It will show you who funds them. It will show you what bills they supported. It will show you what PACs support them. It will show you everything about that candidate, everything. opensecrets.org. And from this point on, you should never be blindsided by any damn candidate. I just gave you an apparatus to teach you about every candidate you want to know about. Another thing I want you to research, excuse me, let me get some water here. Excuse me. I want you to research the Office of Leadership Analysis. The federal government has an Office of Leadership Analysis. Now ask yourself, what the hell is that? They analyze every so-called leader, where they come from. We need protection. We need our own central intelligence. Out of this, I hope that we are able to do so, right? I have a central intelligence that surrounds me. Who they are, you don't know. What they do, you don't know. A lot of information I get, who do you think funnels it to me? I have a central intelligence around me. Shout out to Dr. Filet. She know what I'm talking about. Who are the RBG goddesses? You will never know their names. I had to do that for me. For the stuff that I do out here, I have to have a protection mechanism around me. To hell with what y'all trying to play games with. This is no game out here. I don't want to have the same fate as Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. I don't want to have the same fate as our brother, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. I don't want to have the same fate as Madam Stephanie Sinclair. I don't want to have the same fate as Robert and Mabel Williams. I don't want none of that. So I had to choose a circle of people around me who I trust unconditionally, who I know will get me information. As a matter of fact, we feed each other information. None of y'all know who we are, except myself. But nobody know who it is. And it's going to remain that way. It's going to remain that way. So I hope as we go forward, right? Because you have brothers like Marcus Klein, Black Panther, the Barudis, Brother Q, who we place our children's minds in the hands of. That must be protected. It must be. Q Butter has to know the people who are around him. And if someone steps out of line, somebody has to alert him. The same with Brother Kuji Chakalia, Brother Bomani. There must be a protection around them. If this is supposed to grow, as we all hope that it will, we have to protect what we're doing. If I see any store or any Hispanic, European, Asian selling anything 100 years in a whirlwind and we don't check it, I'm coming to see all of y'all who signed up. Because we let it happen. I have no problem with going into stores and telling them to take certain stuff off the shelves. And if you don't, I'm going to cause a ruckus. But by the time the police get here, your nose is going to be on the floor. So I'm telling you, we're going to have to become more aggressive. We can't let someone like a Kamala Harris or a Joe Biden combine. They put more Black people behind penitentiary walls than any other team in U.S. presidential history. Their numbers alone, they must be stopped. Not because we love Trump. Oh, that fool been crazy. I clearly remember when Trump took out that front page New York Times ad against the Central Park 7, who, by the way, I gathered almost 1 million signatures on behalf of the Central Park 5 brothers. From here to South Carolina. And peace be upon my brother James Patnard. Worked tirelessly to present those signatures to the City Council of New York, to the Controller of New York. Cut the check or we're going to shut you down. We rolled up into the City Council chambers and we demanded Charles Barron present those signatures. Even his behind was scared. Present the damn signatures, we told him, or else. I wish I had a little bit more time because I'll tell you about a lot of frauds around us. Sharpton ain't the only one. See, I look for two things, the money and the legal doctrine. You know, you got Ben Crump running around talking about we filing this and we filing that. Where's the paperwork? Where your briefs at? Because it ain't filed with the courthouse yet. I ain't seen it. And immediately when you file, it becomes public record. Don't play with me. So when I show up at these town halls where these fools are at, they can't run this game on me because I'm well astute. Politically, I learn legally, I have a philosophy, I understand military science, and for me, in all ways, will be Black first. You know, I'm like the character in the film Wakanda. What was her name? Oyokene, I think her name was, right? The military sister. Even her husband, she told him, I have no allegiance to you. I have an allegiance to the Republic. If my children are out of line, if my husband are out of line, take them out of here. Take them out of here. You, me, or them are not bigger than the movement. We have to reclaim the legacy of Garvey, reclaim the legacy of Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, reclaim the legacy of Ida B. Wells, who I have on my wall. I don't think y'all can see, it's a little bit further up. But we have to reclaim that legacy. That is the only way we're going to maintain ourselves. If we rebuild Black wealth, if we rebuild Black land ownership, we have to protect it. We have to protect it. If we want our children to trust us, to love us, and to seek us for counsel, they have to be protected. These public schools must be shut down. We must demand that local government turn over those funds immediately. They rightfully belong to us. Turn over those funds to schools like Ziax Institute, like my brother Black Panther School. The Marooni shouldn't be asking for money. Georgia owes them that money. Every Black person in Georgia should mandate that the city council turn over those funds, or there will not be business as usual in Georgia. So family, I think my time is up. I love y'all. I appreciate you all. I'm going to sit and learn. I've learned so much already from the classes that I've watched. I continue to learn. We are all a collective body. And as I told my brother Kuji Chakalia, you know, we weren't just asked to do this. Somebody in your ancestral realm called you to this. See, my grandmother don't believe in forgiving white folks for nothing. My great-grandfather don't believe in forgiving white folks for nothing. In fact, I have a certificate from one of my relatives who fought in the Civil War. His name is on the wall at the African American Civil War Museum. When he came out of the war, he raided the armories and took those weapons and turned them over to the Black residents of the towns in DC. So I know the lineage in which I come from. It's very important too, family, that you study your own family history. Don't tell me a goddamn thing about the Songhai Empire and you don't know your own family history. See, I'm following my line. I'm following my legacy. And when something goes wrong, whether it's my father's side of the family, my mother's side of the family, or my in-laws, I'm the one they call. Because they know what time it is. So family, I love you. Peace and blessings to all of you. Continue this great work that you're doing. Let nobody take you off your square. Stand firm in your discipline. I will never try to cross over into what you do best. I will continue to learn from each and every one of you. I follow some of you on social media. The others that I do not follow, I will start following, because this is now a community. This is now the whirlwind stirring up again. This is God. You know, you just had an earthquake and a terrible storm, which knocked down trees all over New York City. I mean, not just knocked the trees down, but trees literally uprooted from the ground in every borough in this city. Garvey planted his soil here. He planted his root here. Malcolm planted his root here. Hubert Harrison planted his root here. Stephanie Sinclair planted her root here.
Intro to O, and my dude that Timbuktu the Ave. For renew your passion, shun the condition, and not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last, put the higher in hierarchy. Climber, paint a picture, no primer, reppin' Garvey, and all that's godly. Sorry, I can't relate, I'm warrior Masi. Zulu pull up on Fasi and catch a body. Enemies nearing far, declaring